Wow. Yeah, I don't care. Let's talk about the Nintendo Direct. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart, and there's a lot of things I want to say about the Nintendo Direct, and yeah, I realize it's kind of a couple days late already, so I understand that this may not be that relevant, this video may not do that well, but I still need to talk about it, and there's just some things that are sort of eating at me about what people are saying about this Direct. One, people are saying that this was like the best Direct ever, and I couldn't disagree more. I'm not saying this Direct sucked, like, to Kingdom Come, but it just wasn't even close to like the greatest Direct ever. I wouldn't even necessarily say this was like an above average Direct. Maybe it was average, right? There were definitely some good points. There were also a lot of bad points. I mean, there were several times in the video that I was just straight up yawning, right? And while I may yawn normally in real life, just randomly, I was yawning a lot. There's just a lot of things that were just kind of dry and boring and just straight up bad. But also, there were some really, really good things. So let's talk about those good things before I continue to shit on this Direct. Now, the first thing in this Direct was actually really good, and that was Luigi's Mansion 3. I was actually really excited to hear about this. I was screaming in joy. I was really happy. I didn't get to put out my reactions because my computer crashed and it sucked, and right before it crashed I was seeing the stream for Luigi's Mansion and the resolution was at a really low resolution. I actually thought that this was actually a trailer for Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS before I bumped it up from 360 to 1080p 60, and it looked way better, and at that moment I realized, yeah, that this is a legitimate Luigi's Mansion game for the Nintendo Switch. But here's the thing, I also noticed that the aesthetic was very close to Dark Moon. Like, I actually thought it was a Dark Moon trailer or something like that when it was at a low resolution, but it isn't. It's a legitimate Luigi's Mansion for the Nintendo Switch. But I'm a little concerned that the aesthetic might be closer to Dark Moon rather than the original Luigi's Mansion. I personally prefer the original Luigi's Mansion because that game seems to have a better sort of aesthetic and atmosphere. It feels more spooky and it seems to be a bit more enthralling, at least to me personally. Now, it doesn't mean that this game's gonna suck. I mean, even if it is closer to Dark Moon in terms of atmosphere, it could still be a great game, because I still liked Dark Moon a lot. But, you know, I really would like to see that atmosphere from the original. So maybe somehow they could come to a happy medium where they can take that color and variety that we saw in Dark Moon and sort of mesh it in with that atmosphere and that ambience that we got from the original. And maybe they could come out with a game that's really spooky, really interesting, really quirky, and maybe we could all love it better than the previous two. But there's another interesting thing I noticed about Luigi's Mansion. So, the thing is, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Luigi was shooting that plunger. This design for Luigi's Mansion 3, definitely was teased during the previous Smash Direct. That whole cutscene with Luigi getting his soul stolen by death and then being sort of, not really saved by Simon Belmont, that was all a tease for Luigi's Mansion 3. And it definitely happened. So that's very interesting to me. So, Nintendo and Sakurai are using Smash Bros. To tease and talk about other things. They're building up this narrative and teasing other things from Nintendo here. So what does that say about the other trailers that they've shown for Smash Bros? What about when they showed off Ridley back at E3? Were they teasing Metroid Prime 4 in some way? I always thought it was kind of weird how they showed Zero Suit Samus at the very end of the Ridley trailer. It just seemed out of place. Like, why were they placing an emphasis on her in that way? Maybe it's implying something for Metroid Prime 4. I think there's a possibility with that, and, you know, I'm just kind of shocked that they actually were teasing a Luigi's Mansion 3 design in a Smash Bros. Trailer. I've never noticed that before with Smash Bros. Have they ever actually, like, teased an actual design for a new character before he's been revealed? If it has, let me know in the comments, guys, but I think this is the first time. So it's just really interesting, and it kind of, I guess it puts more onus on us, at least me personally, to pay more attention to these Smash trailers, and maybe there's even more that's going to be hidden and teased for future games from Nintendo. That's really, really interesting. Now, moving on to something else. When they showed Town, I was kind of surprised because it's being developed by Game Freak, and the reason why I'm surprised is because Game Freak is already developing Pokemon Let's Go, and they're also developing the next mainline Pokemon in 2019. So those are two major Pokemon games, two 3D HD games. Game Freak is moving over to the HD era now. Now, while they have developed some smaller games in HD, this is the first time they're developing like full-on 3D HD games. And here we have another one, Town, that's also coming out in 2019. So they have three HD 3D games that all look pretty good. coming out in 2019. Of course, we don't actually know how Pokemon 2019 is going to look, but I can only imagine it's going to look better than Pokemon Let's Go, and maybe even better than Town, which is also interesting, because Town has a very interesting style and design, and looking at how that game looks, it just kind of makes me even more excited for when we finally get to see Pokemon 2019. But nevertheless, the point I want to sort of harp on here is that Game Freak is developing 3 sort of relatively big games for the Nintendo Switch. That's, you know, that's a lot of divided labor. I feel like it's pretty safe to say that Game Freak is no longer working on the 3DS, and that fills my heart with joy, because I have to tell you, I am tired of my 3DS. Not because I don't like my 3DS, not because I don't love my 3DS, but because that thing should have died 2 years ago, and Nintendo has had that thing on life support for way too long. So the fact that Game Freak seems to no longer have any 3DS games in development is very exciting to me, because if Game Freak has moved on, that means the 3DS is officially dead, because Pokemon is the actual essence of all of Nintendo's handheld systems. So if Game Freak moves on, that thing is gone, right? And you know, after watching the Direct, they didn't really have that much to show for the 3DS. They had a couple little things, but nothing major. I feel like once we get past, you know, 2018, there really is nothing else. There's like that Mario and Luigi thing that no one cares about, and that's pretty much it. So I'm glad that the 3DS is finally going to rest in peace. Now, I want to talk about that Splatoon content that they showed off. I was kind of hoping for something a little bit more than that, something a bit more extensive, something to sort of really compel people to get Nintendo's online service. But all they showed was this really artistic, really cool looking trailer. They didn't really say too much. They said to go check out their Tumblr, and they did, and they learned a few things about what this DLC or version 4 Splatoon is, and it's nothing, well, it's nothing that's gonna make me want to get back into the game. I was kind of minutely hopeful that when I saw that times 100 thing that it was implying some sort of battle royale, and I saw that sort of turn into a bit of a rumor on the internet. But that's not the case. If you check out their Tumblr page, the Squid Research Lab, they clearly say that it is just some sort of special battle mode where you can earn more points and stuff like that. So that's what it is. It's not a battle royale mode, you know. Sorry guys, but nevertheless, you know, it's an update for Splatoon. They're going to continue to support the game, so, you know, if you're a Splatoon player, I guess that's good news. But, you know, I want to sort of, I guess, delve into the online service now, because Nintendo finally showed off like an online service and talked about it with an actual voice rather than just random little listings on their online site, and it was pretty much everything we knew. There was nothing really new to show aside from those NES controllers that are way overpriced. And it's pretty disappointing, guys. I'm going to be frank with you. I know a lot of people have been sort of really ranking on the online, and with good reason, because everything they've shown is bad. Like, first of all, not once did they indicate in any shape or form that the online service that they're providing is an improvement from the past. Like, it's all still peer-to-peer. They're not introducing servers. We're basically paying for just to be allowed to use online. It's not like Nintendo is putting in money to make the servers better. They're not. They're just charging us more. Nintendo Online has been free since the era of the Wii, which came out in 2006. Just pointing that out there. We haven't been paying for online with Nintendo systems for over a decade. And while Nintendo's online hasn't been nearly at all fleshed out compared to the other systems, it's also been free. But now we're paying money. And while it may not be a lot, it doesn't seem they're really adding that much either. So they're adding these NES games, but not too many people care for NES games. Yes, there are people who care, and I'm definitely going to dabble with that, but it's just NES games, and it's not even the full roster. Like, we've had Virtual Console for years, and they're going to be slowly updating that roster. So that also kind of irks me. Now, the cloud saves things, you've probably heard about this before, but yes, you're paying for cloud saves, and while you can make a legitimate argument as to why you shouldn't have to pay for cloud saves, it should just be given to you, actually allowed on the system, we're paying for it. And the worst part about it is that some of the bigger online games that are for Nintendo, like Splatoon and eventually Pokemon, are not going to be eligible for cloud saves. And that sucks, because people put hundreds and hundreds of hours into that. So they're paying for cloud saves, and they don't get the cloud saves, and their games that usually take hundreds and hundreds of hours of data could be lost if their switches are damaged. I really don't understand why Nintendo can't just offer at least another way to back up our save data. Even the Wii U had that. Just allow us to back up our save data on micro SD cards. At least do that. If you're going to force us to pay for cloud saves and such with the online, and you're not going to give it to everyone, at least allow us to save our data on the micro SD card. Then, you know, people who are playing Splatoon who have put in 300, 400 hours could, you know, keep that save somewhere else so they don't risk losing it. It's just not consumer friendly, and that's unfortunate, especially because Nintendo's now charging us for it. Now, the other thing that sort of annoyed me was that the discount service, they didn't really say anything about it. And that's like the one thing that I'm sort of really hoping is kind of good here, because I would love it if I could save 10, 20, oh, I would, if it's 30% like some viewers have suggested, that would be amazing, on like actual like $60 games. That would just be incredible. Even 10% would be great, especially since now Best Buy and Amazon no longer are going to be offering their discount services for games. If Nintendo's discount service could give us like 10% off games, that would be really, really good, and that would definitely make the online service worth it for a lot of people, especially for me. But they said nothing. Doesn't mean it won't happen, but they decided to share nothing about it. We've been waiting for a really long time to get this online service. They've delayed it like crazy. It's taken a year and a half for the online service to come out, and it doesn't even seem to be really that fleshed out. It's not even that extensive. It doesn't even seem that amazing. A lot of people are really hating on what we're being told we're getting. So, you know, unfortunately, Nintendo's online plan just doesn't seem to be that good. And, you know, I don't want to... I'm not saying I've been a Nintendo apologist in the past, but I've definitely not been a Nintendo hater. I'm a huge Nintendo fan, but this is just something that is just kind of whatever. I will buy it when I have to buy it, not because I want to buy it. Like, once Smash comes out, that's probably when I'll buy the online service, because I'm going to want to play Smash online. Hopefully, at least with Smash Brothers, it won't lag like the previous Smash Bros. Games. Fingers crossed. Now, moving on to something that's a bit more positive, I was really excited to see all these different Final Fantasy games coming to the Nintendo Switch. Like, that's great news. Like, going into the Direct knowing about Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition, I just wasn't happy about it. I mean, I consider that game straight up trash. Like, I just wish that thing didn't exist, but it does, and it sucks. But once I saw that it was announced along with 5 other Final Fantasy games, I no longer felt so bad. Like, we're getting a whole bunch of Final Fantasy. We've never gotten this much Final Fantasy on a Nintendo system ever. Like, this is a lot of Final Fantasy, and for the first time ever, we're going to be able to play as Cloud in Final Fantasy VII on a Nintendo system. That's crazy. And Final Fantasy is an incredible RPG series, and a Nintendo Switch is perfect for RPGs. So the fact that I'll be able to play Final Fantasy VII wherever I want, on the go, put a sleep mode, take breaks, and just continually grind and enjoy the story at my own pace, that's really exciting. So I can't wait to try out all these different Final Fantasy games on the Nintendo Switch, and I guess it's very telling for the improved partnership between Nintendo and Square. It's great news. It really is. And while we may not be getting any sort of major AAA Final Fantasy games, you know, it's at least been good. And I think that's the thing kind of for most about this in Direct in general. There's a lot of remasters, a lot of ports, a lot of different kinds of games that, you know, there's going to be some of them that are bound to appeal to some people. We may not be getting the big AAA games this year, but there's a lot of small stuff, a lot of ports, a lot of remasters, and there's definitely a lot of games out there that I myself am very interested in. Like, for example, Dark Souls Remastered and Okami HD, which I should have picked up already, but there's a lot of ports out there that I can't wait to try out because I never got a chance to play them in the past, and the Nintendo Switch is getting a whole bunch of them, and that's really cool. And speaking of third-party support, Starlink is actually really interesting to me. So when I first saw it, I was kind of meh on it. Even when they showed off Star Fox, I freaked out because I thought it was maybe like, you know, an actual Star Fox game, and then it turned out to just be kind of like a cameo, except apparently Ubisoft is saying that this Star Fox thing is not just a cameo, it's like a legitimate crossover, and I've seen a lot of gameplay already. They seem to be really highly integrated into the story of Starlink. There's a whole bunch of Star Fox cutscenes. There's actual Star Fox mechanics within the game, like the barrel roll and the charge shot, and there's even music and actual levels that are dedicated to Star Fox, and it seems like they're going to be relevant all throughout the story for Starlink. So in a way, this is kind of basically an open world Star Fox game. And that's really cool. And if you think of it in that way, this year doesn't seem as barren, does it? Because if you think of it as an open world Star Fox game, we get an open world Star Fox game, a Pokemon game, potentially the best Super Mario Party we've seen in years, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And that doesn't seem too bad, especially if there are a few ports and remasters that you're interested in, like me with Dark Souls Remastered and Ark. So, you know, this year actually is looking to be pretty fair. But what's really interesting, though, is that Animal Crossing was announced for the Nintendo Switch at the very end of the Direct, along with Isabelle for Smash Brothers, and that's really cool. And it kind of paints a very interesting picture for 2019, because we're getting Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, Fire Emblem, Daemon X Machina, Town, a mainline Pokemon game, potentially Metroid Prime 4, that's not confirmed yet, Bayonetta 3 as well, and I'm sure I'm missing something else. Oh, Yoshi, right? And it just, did I say Fire Emblem? Like that as well. That's a lot of different games that are already confirmed to be coming to Nintendo Switch that are, you know, mainline, you know, published Nintendo games, big Nintendo games, and that's that's a pretty good list. And Pikmin 4 is sort of looming in the air as well. That may be announced at some point relatively soon too. So 2019 is looking pretty intense. Like it's looking really, really good. So I'm pretty excited for that, and there's enough for 2018 to sort of tide me over. And I mean, once Smash comes around, I mean, I'm gonna be good for a really, really long time. But you know, I guess the main takeaway is that 2019 is going to be insane. 2018 was a little slow, but there are so many different ports and remasters and just generally, you know, just overall improved third-party support on a Nintendo system, the Switch, and it's better than it's been in a really long time, and it's only getting better. So the future is bright for Nintendo when it comes to games. The online service is bad. I don't think this is a platform that Nintendo's going to stick to for the long haul, but maybe for the rest of the Nintendo Switch's life cycle, probably, yeah. But once we move on to the next system, I think they're going to have to do some things to definitely enhance it, and that doesn't mean they can't improve upon the online service as time goes on. Maybe that online app will get revamped and not suck as much. Maybe there'll be more than just NES games that will be added, and maybe that discount program will have some seriously really nice discounts that it could work out, and maybe eventually Nintendo will allow for backup cloud saves with Pokemon and actual Splatoon, or maybe they'll offer an alternative where you can back up the saves with a micro SD. These are all things that can be improved upon with updates over the next couple years. Hopefully it all happens relatively soon. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But regardless, 2019 at least is looking really, really good. Smash Bros. In December is looking really, really good. And Starlink and Pokemon Let's Go and Super Mario Party are, you know, going to be relatively solid games as well. For the most part, I would say there's a lot to be happy about when it comes to this Nintendo Direct, but it definitely wasn't the best ever. That's just not true. But regardless, it was okay. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you guys excited for the Nintendo Switch and its future? Are you really pissed off about the online service? Are you both, or somewhere in the middle, or just something else entirely different from what I'm saying? Let me know. Anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Bye.